You are my dream girl. As soon as I laid my eyes on you, I wanted to be with you. It became like, you need to get out of here. Separated my house key from my car key and he threw my car key on the floor. What are you saving money for? To leave? You're like, I don't feel like you're close enough to me. And the best, like, revenge, whatever you want to call it, is gaining trust with yourself, becoming your own best friend, and just genuinely savoring your peace of mind. Hey guys, I have been meaning to film this video for such a long time. This is my first video on YouTube, and every time I'm about to film it, I feel like something is off. Either my hair is greasy, or I'm not prepared enough, or it's a little too dark in the room. So at this point, I'm just gonna film it, okay? So bear with me. If you're watching this video, I assume you most likely have found it through my TikTok. I originally am a TikTok content creator. I have over 200,000 followers on TikTok, and that's where I originally started doing social media. I started off talking about my Russian and Slavic upbringing and the way I came to America at a young age and how I've been settling here, which later turned into me sharing a lot about my relationships because I wanted to involve more of my personal life rather than how I used to at some point 3 years ago live in Russia and just keep talking about that on and on and on. Just I wanted to bring in something real, something that is genuinely true for me in the moment. And for a long time, for the past year, it has been going through a relationship that I did not expect was going to turn out the way that it did. But today, the focus of my video will be discussing how that relationship went, what happened, why I decided to leave, why it was toxic, and ultimately how I've been recovering because I, to my own surprise, have recalibrated pretty fast. We broke up 2.5 months ago, and I would never think that at this point in time, I would be so high functioning, I would be so alert, so clear minded, and so confident in my truth about everything. This is my emotional support cup of kratom tea, and I'm gonna be reading off of my notes on my laptop. So let's get started. I was in a long term relationship prior to this very last relationship that I recently exited, and that relationship prior was 3.5 years long. I'm not gonna get too much or probably at all into that relationship because today I want to focus particularly about what I learned from my most recent relationship. And let's start talking about the way that we met. Originally, I didn't even notice the guy. I was going to like a coffee shop and I would always read my book, journal my notes, paint, whatever. And this person started coming up to me and saying hello to me and hugging me as if we knew each other, which I was kind of surprised, but at the same time, it's like a lounge, so people go there to study, to talk with their friends, to maybe decompress after work and read a book. Everybody does their own thing. This guy has been coming up to me and just hugging me, and I've never spoken with him. I've never met him. I don't know his name. I don't know nothing about him, but this person just comes and hugs me and says hello to me like we were friends. First, I didn't even register him, but once I did, it probably took him like 5 times of coming up to me. I just asked him about his name. He told me his name. I told him my name. And whenever I would come to that bar after that, he would still keep giving me a hug. Sometimes we would have a small talk. And at some point, he asked me to play pool with him. And we did, after which he asked for my number. And I told him that I was taken. And we stopped talking. And I stopped coming to that place where we originally met for over 3 or 4 months. In the meanwhile, my relationship prior, in which I was for 3.5 years, started going downhill. There was a lot of arguments. My ex-partner ended up breaking my phone, after which I was pretty determined that I did not want to be with that person. So at that point in time, about 4 months after I originally met this guy. Okay, so we're gonna call my previous ex, who I was with for 3.5 years, ex number one, and this one, ex number two. The ex number two, I haven't seen him for 3 or 4 months, and after my relationship with my ex number one started going to shit, I was just like, okay, yeah, no way. I just started coming back to that place where me and ex number two met and we started talking. He was practicing photography at the time, so he invited me to a photo shoot and we went to a park and then we met the week after that week for another photo shoot. At some point, my ex number one, we already broke up, but he ended up finding out that I'm talking to the ex number two and he told me that I have to move out of his place because I was still living with him at the time. I move out of my ex number one place. Me and ex number two start hanging out every day, start dating 2 weeks. After that, he already have been showering me with a lot of affection. The way our connection started originally is through a lot of deep conversations and like literally the very first date that we had, or hangout date, I don't know what to call it. It wasn't like technically a date, we were just sitting outside on a patio and chatting. He overshared with me an immense amount of childhood trauma that at the time I just took it as he's trusting me or he's opening up to me. We got really spiritually enmeshed right away. He used a lot of spiritual language that kind of hooked me. I think he was mirroring in a way what I was looking for, which I was looking for depth, I was looking for emotional connection, I was looking for, yeah, just this deep spiritual connection. And I think he was able to mirror that, and maybe in the way he was subconsciously testing my empathy to see if I could hold it for him. There were signs of classical love bombing from the start in that relationship, which is a lot of affection right away. Like that person was showering me with affection and they were moving events fast, which is classical love bombing. When you meet somebody, they shower you with affection, you barely know that person, and they're fast tracking the intimacy. At the time, it did not feel natural to me. Maybe I was slightly uncomfortable because I was like, yeah, I barely know you. This is a little weird, but at the same time, it did. I'll be honest, it did sweep me off my feet, and that is kind of exactly what the type of people that love bomb you are looking for: is for you to get swept off your feet and be completely caught up in this fantasy that they made about you. Because basically, what love bombing is the idealization phase of you that the other person is having, that you're this ideal woman, not like their exes, not like anybody else they've ever met, that is finally going to save them, make them feel loved. Ultimately, it is never about you. That fantasy is about them and about how they feel through you, how they get to feel through being loved by you, because they want you to fall in love fast. That's also part of what love bombing is to get you on that hook, on the emotional hook, as soon as possible, because the person love bombing you, the person idealizing you, they cannot keep that mask on for a very long time. Usually it's like multiple weeks to maybe a few months before you can really start seeing the cracks in the mask, and they want to get you before that time. Yeah, so I was talking about love bombing. The signs of love bombing that I can now think of that happened in the relationship with ex number 2 is we just started dating. It was the first week of us talking and we were on video call, and he was making remarks of like us being together forever in a joking but like the romantic way. I don't know what he was trying to do with that, but he was like, "Yeah, we're going to be together forever." And I was like, I mean, we'll see, like we just started dating, we just got together, things happen, people change, like this is a big statement to make as of right now." I feel like throughout the first entire month of our relationship, he was continuously testing my commitment to him, which, I mean, everything happened fast. We started dating within 2 weeks of us talking, and within like a few weeks of us dating, he was already like, "I don't feel like you're close enough to me. I don't feel like you're keeping me involved enough or whatnot." And he even offered switching from the boyfriend and girlfriend status to being friends with benefits, because he felt like I couldn't open up enough or I wasn't ready for a relationship, when in reality we have just started dating and we just needed time. Like it was within 2 weeks of us being a couple. I did feel pressured, and at the same time I really liked that person and I didn't want to lose them. I was already feeling attached to them. Like I said, we got spiritually enmeshed fast and I was really invested in that connection. So I started trying to show them all of the ways that I could think of that I was committed to that relationship, that I wanted to be with them, that I was taking it seriously, because I felt like they didn't see that, or maybe I wasn't doing enough. I'm back here with my notes. This is the shit I did a couple weeks after breakup, but guess what? It actually helped me to kind of lay things out in my mind and really process it, I feel like, a lot faster than I normally would. But you're gonna listen now about what else I learned during the idealization phase. Basically, the idealization phase is like the illusion of you being seen, and for us, what happened is the time frame was about 1 to 1.5 months. It was like the honeymoon phase. The relationship has just started. We were seeing each other every day. That was the time I first lended him money, like a decent amount of money. We went on our first travel together on a camping trip, and we started looking for an apartment to move in together. So that's within a month. So events are moving immensely fast. We're getting closer immensely fast. The dynamics were, he mirrored my interests a lot. My interest in reading, I read a lot, and when he saw me at that place where he met me, he would see me reading all the time, so he would also pick up a book whenever we would go hang out, and we like would go to Barnes and Nobles together. He would also intensely praise me by saying things like, "I prayed to God for somebody like you. You are my dream girl. As soon as I laid my eyes on you, I wanted to be with you." And also comparing me to his exes to lift me up. So, like, putting them down in order to put me up in comparison to them. So, in the beginning, he genuinely made me believe he's been waiting for somebody like me his whole life. Mind you, I've never experienced love bombing in that way, so to me, it was extremely real. The reason why it felt real is because he simply studied me and then mirrored to me the best that he could whatever he assumed I wanted to see, for as long as he could hold on to that mask, obviously, because at some point, a person who loves bomb you, their psyche will start running low, and that is when love bombing slash idealization phase turns into devaluation phase, which we're going to talk about now, which is like the second phase of our relationship after we have moved in together. Oh, also another quick remark that I wanted to make about people that might love bomb you in romantic relationships is they sometimes don't even consciously understand that they're doing it. In their mind, when they idealize you, they truly believe the idealized version of you. They truly believe that you are not like other people. They truly believe that you are not like their exes. They truly believe that you are the special, magical human being that will come and finally save them and make them happy. And that is what ultimately makes it so dangerous, because they're not even falling in love with you, they are falling in love with the fantasy of you. And as soon as, God forbid, you show that you are a real human being with real flaws, with real emotions, with boundaries, mask starts cracking. They cannot keep it on forever. This is what happened in my relationship after the idealization phase started wearing off. I think the devaluation phase in my relationship began in between 1.5 months of us being together and lasted for about 2 to 3 months. So it was a good portion of the time that we lived together. It didn't become bad or chaotic or crazy like overnight. It was really subtle. It was a lot of boundary testing. It was a lot of first small conflicts. Yes, I noticed the subtle mood shifts practically as soon as we moved together. It was like less presence, more withdrawal, and the person even admitted that to me. I remember in the first couple of weeks of us living together, he was like, I'm sorry, I know I'm not as present as I wish I was, but I'm just really stressed right now, and I promise you I'll make it up to you. I understand that this is probably not what you want to see. So I guess he was aware of that. We started getting into small arguments which felt like they were out of nowhere, which felt like I couldn't really control. Sometimes I would not even like expect something to piss that person off, and it would, and then I would try to be like, oh my god, I'm sorry, I didn't like mean to say it in that tone or phrase it that way. Sometimes I would just be having like a kind of stressful day and they would call me and I would have an attitude like, oh shit, I've been doing this for like this long and fuck, I'm so tired. And they would be like, you're so negative, what's wrong with you, blah blah blah. Like, it wasn't, sometimes it wasn't even directed at them. I would just be having my own moment, and then I would kind of be made feel guilty for it, and there would be a whole argument out of nothing, when really I was already in the vulnerable state and needed support and thought that I could just share these things with my partner. Person started flipping between affection and being cold. And being cold flip would happen as a punishment for whatever that wasn't going their way. That was a really apparent sign. Towards the end of devaluation phase, this first small rages began with name calling. I also wanted to talk about the kind of financial mess that I let myself get into in that relationship, and how our finances as like a family living together were extremely chaotic, and why. So like I said, our relationship pretty much started with me lending them money for their rent that they never ended up paying back to me. And when we were moving into our apartment that we got together, they lost their job as we were about to sign that lease. So we made an agreement that I would be paying for our move-in costs, which is like the deposits, all of the fees. I moved in the middle of the month, so I was covering 2 weeks of November, and then I covered the majority of December as well as all of the fees. So we made an agreement that for the months of January and February, my ex would be paying for the entire month so that I could kind of recalibrate, save some money. They did not end up covering those 2 months completely, even though they got a new job. They were not getting enough hours, so I still ended up pitching in. Never paid me back for the money I lended them like months ago. At that point, I kind of ended up paying so much more in proportion. I was spending a lot of money, and besides that, I also helped us get all of the essentials for the apartment, kitchen appliances, some furniture pieces. I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot from my savings. I got very stressed because also my school started at the time. And I remember I was trying to speak with them and say, like, hey, so I just feel really chaotic about our finances. How about we sit down, we get a big sheet of paper, we write down your income, my income, your expenses, my expenses, our joint expenses, and like our savings goals, just get it out on paper and have it all in front of our eyes so we kind of see where our money is going. Both times that I tried to talk to them about it and turned into an argument, that there was a time when for some reason my car insurance went up from $400 to $800. Reason, like apparently I forgot to report something once I signed up for a new car insurance. I don't know, something went wrong. My car insurance jumped from 400 to 800 in 1 month. I was so stressed. I was trying to figure out what to do. And they basically offered me to sell my car. I didn't really state that it really, really pissed me off and that I was not happy about that. But now that I think about it, my car, A, it's a gift from my parents. B, it is completely paid off. It's newer than his car. It's in absolute perfect condition. His car, he is still paying it off. It was in multiple accidents. It's not in the best value, I guess, at this point. So, if anything, if we were to sell a car for our family budget to not struggle anymore, it would only make sense to sell his car because I own my car, it is completely paid off. Um, and I really just needed to switch to another insurance. I don't know why he was trying to tell me that I need to save my car, but that really pissed me off. And now that I think about it, I just feel like it's so entitled because why would you tell me that while owing me money? So we ended up getting another insurance together and I started paying 250 instead of 400, but as I later found out after we already broke up, apparently my car insurance has been 150 the whole time. The reason I was paying 250 is because for both of our cars, since we had a joint insurance, it was supposed to be 500, but his car was 350 because he has been into multiple accidents before, so his insurance was higher and he just split it down the middle. Didn't tell me that like I'm paying a little extra because maybe he can cover it. Like there was never a conversation letting me know. I genuinely thought the 250 was my legitimate part. And I was already struggling of like paying half rent, paying our groceries, paying for my insurance, and making less than him. And I started school. Anyways, that was a really long rant, but I want you guys to understand how our financial situation looked like because the financial situation, I mean, it really just affects your sense of stability, like in the deepest way possible. With both of our incomes, it was more than possible that we combine them, that we set the right proportions so that we're able to pay rent, buy groceries, and save money. It ended up being just like I'm making less than you, but I'm covering half rent, I'm covering all of our food and like my own separate expenses. It was just not, it was chaotic. It was chaotic and it was supposed to be chaotic because chaos is the only way to keep you stuck, is the only way to keep you second guessing yourself, is the only way to keep you confused enough so that you don't leave. Because if you feel stable financially, if you have savings, if you are sure of yourself and confident, you might just realize that you don't need them, and that is not what that kind of person would want. I got out of that relationship, May was my highest earning month ever since I started making money. And literally, the first thing that I did was I wrote down a budget. This time, I only had my expenses to worry about, so everything was crystal clear. I got extremely clear on how much money I need for gas, how much money I need for food, how much money I need for rent, etc., etc. So all of that has been written down. And I've been writing down every single one of my expense like I've always used to. I've always used to do that. Basically a way that I'm healing from this financial mess and from feeling destabilized for so long and from feeling like I don't have a stable ground beneath my feet is just genuinely taking care of my finances and getting crystal clear on all of my expenses, all of my payments, all of my goals. That is kind of how I got myself back on track. Another distinct sign of that relationship that I now deem unhealthy is that they were seeking control over my bodily autonomy. At first, it was subtle, just like everything else. The very first thing that they brought up is that they did not want me to post pictures or videos of my feet, even if it was like accidental or like a brief shot in my b-rolls on my TikTok or my Instagram, just anywhere, because they were particularly into that body part. They wanted me to keep it private, and the way they put it at first felt respectful, felt like something I could do for them, something like I wouldn't mind doing for them, didn't feel like that big of a deal for me. So I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. Sure. It ended up proceeding into them guilt tripping me about wearing my shorts in the house, calling me a whore, a hoe, a slut, saying they never want to touch me. It wouldn't be brought up in like a neutral setting. That I was not like truly aware that they didn't want me to wear shorts in the house, and I would wear them for like several months. They wouldn't say anything. And then one day we would have an argument and they would bring up the fact that I'm wearing shorts in the house. And I'm like, wow, I've never heard you say that before. I've never heard that you were uncomfortable with me wearing shorts in the house. Where did this come from? why am I only finding out about this now? And why am I finding out about it in like such a disrespectful way of you calling me a whore, a slut, and saying you never want to touch me again? Like, I'm just wearing shorts, bro. Please. Another pattern in that relationship was that the person was often getting fishy and suspicious about me doing something. They would ask me, like, have you been chatting with your ex? Have you been talking to any other guys? Sometimes they would just straight up ask me, and that was already towards the end of the relationship, like, have you cheated on me? And I'm like, no. Where are you getting this from? They're just like, you're acting suspicious. And I'm like, how am I acting suspicious? Can you please explain to me what's bothering you? I mean, they couldn't really explain it to me in the way that would make sense. What ended up happening actually is, they were always really suspicious about me texting somebody or texting my exes. And at some point, I ended up finding out that they reached out to their ex from back in the day that they were together with 5 years ago for about a year ish. And that story is so weird to me to this day because, well, since we got together, I heard a lot about their exes, which I kind of deemed a red flag. But I told them, like, hey, I'm uncomfortable hearing about this. Can you stop talking about it? And they were like, yeah, he did stop talking about it. So I appreciate that. The ex that I'm talking about that he ended up reaching out to was his ex from back in the day. And he told me all kinds of things about her. He told me that she disrespected him and his own family and that she even tried to kill him by drunk driving, like trying to crash a car drunk driving. And he told me this whole story of how he had to pull her out of the driver's seat, throw her in the back seat, get into the driver's seat and save their lives. And like, and after that, he broke up with her apparently. And then one day we accidentally see her at a park that we went to take our dog out to. And the second I see that girl, I could almost feel like an energetic thread between them. And she passes and he's like, wow, that is my ex from back in the day that I told you about. And I'm like, oh wow, no way. I kind of thought that you knew her. Turns out a week later, I actually met her at a kava bar that we go to together. I just didn't know that I met her because he introduced her to me, but he didn't like give me the context of like, by the way, that is my ex. So I met her. I just didn't know. And then throughout the entire week after I met her, I had the weirdest feeling that he has been talking to her. So I go on his laptop and I open the messages, and she ended up being the one who reached out to him originally, saying, like, wow, I just saw you at the park. And then, I guess after the day that they met at the cover bar and he introduced me to her, they got in touch again, and he ended up sending her a long message saying, like, you look so good, whatever you're doing, keep it up. By the way, let's meet at the bar and catch up. I would love to vibe with you. Anyways, so there was that. He did end up reaching out to his ex, and it was about 3 weeks before I left him that I found out about that. I mean, it completely threw me off. My microphone keeps running out of battery, but let's get back to it while it's working right now. I want to talk about the day or the night, which I think marks the transition from the devaluation phase to discard phase, which is the third phase. So the way it started for us, I think what marks the beginning of the discard phase in that relationship is the night when he tried to kick me out of our shared apartment right after we paid rent that month. It was the night of March 5th. And I can't even say that we argued and it happened because of the argument, because it wasn't an argument. That day, he came back from work and he was laying on the couch taking a nap on my lap. And then once he woke up, he was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this place, to this coffee shop. And I thought, like, maybe he would say, like, do you want to spend time together? Do you want to go there with me? Do you want to go hang out? But he just kind of said that he was gonna go. I assumed that he wasn't like inviting me, or I just didn't feel like invited. It just didn't feel warm. I didn't feel welcome. It made me really sad because I was expecting that we would go do something together. I told him, like, hey, I'm feeling sad. That was like a couple minutes later. And he automatically started getting defensive, being like, what the heck is going on? What's your problem? Just tell me, what's your problem? I was like, because I felt like it was getting really heated for no reason again. And I was like, okay, you know what? I can regulate myself. I think you should go take this time for yourself and enjoy your night. He left, and from his car, he started texting me, like, just wanted. I don't even remember what the texts were. I might pull them up on the screen here. But basically, I kept telling him to like go enjoy his night and do his thing, and that I was gonna self regulate and that we can talk later. Just right now, I need some space. And I was like, go take your space, go do your thing. And he was like, no, I'm going home now. So he came back home after having left, And he started pressuring me to talk to him. He started filming me on his phone, saying like, "You're gonna tell me now. You're gonna talk to me now." Like he started getting aggressive, and I'm like, "I'm like so uncomfortable right now. Get away from me. I don't want to talk to you." Honestly, at this point, all the events are scrambled, but I just remember what he was saying. But he kept pushing me around the apartment. At some point, he took my phone and like pretended that he was gonna throw it. He knows that my ex broke my phone, and he was like trying to threaten me. I don't know, but ultimately it became like, "You need to get out of here, leave, like what are you doing here? What is your problem? Just fucking leave." He took my car key and he separated my house key from my car key, and he threw my car key on the floor. And I think at some point my house key also fell on the floor, and at that point I was like so scared. I genuinely did not know what the fuck was going to happen or how far he could go with that. So I got my phone and I texted my dad, "Please be on the phone, like just be available. I might call you if anything. I'm not feeling safe." He's like, "Who are you texting?" And I'm like, "My family member." And I think he realized that like what's going on, that things really have gotten out of hand because he like growled. Like it really took him a second. He was like, "Ah." No, I don't know how to show it, but anyways, he growled. It gave me a second, so I picked up my car key, which ended up being damaged. I had to like push it back together because it wasn't working at first. Picked up my car key, picked up my house key, and ran out of the apartment. At first, I thought he was gonna chase me. He didn't chase me. I get out. I see on his location that he left the house and ended up going to the place he wanted to go originally that night. And I just went home and I ended up receiving a voice message from him. He apologized. I was not over it by any means, not the day after, not a week after. I kept bringing it up and bringing up certain moments and certain phrases and certain things that really bothered me and how I feel so uncertain about this whole thing and like I don't know what to expect from him. But it soon became like, "You're playing a victim. Think about what you did to make me do it. You were not giving me space that day." And that whole explanation, it just makes no sense because I was literally giving him space by telling him, "I'm gonna self regulate, please go enjoy your night." So he completely twisted it into something it never was to tell me I was playing the victim. After that night, I kind of knew where it was going, and a few days before that happened was the last day I bought us groceries, and after that I stopped buying us food and I started saving money. At some point he noticed that I was saving money and he was like, "What are you saving money for? To leave? What are you saving money for? Are you trying to leave?" And I was like, "No, I would just like to have savings." But basically, after that happened, I stopped buying us groceries, and I was buying us groceries for 6 months before I stopped. After I stopped buying us groceries, he actually went and did his whole grocery run. He got some berries and some sandwich materials. When I normally get us chicken, beef, fish, like actual food, so he did this pseudo grocery run. And 2 weeks later, he's telling me now it is your turn to buy groceries. And I'm like, "I'm saving money. I'm not buying anything. Like, maybe you should get groceries now." And it became like, "Okay, let's split groceries. I'll buy my own and you'll buy your own." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, that works for me." And when I agreed to it, he was just like, "Oh, you don't care? You are so selfish. You get money for groceries from your family," because my family was giving me $400 a month on groceries at that time. They don't anymore. And I was like, "Okay, it is none of your business where I get that money for food. My family gives me money for me. I've been spending it on both of us." It was also just like whenever I didn't buy groceries or cook for us, he would do takeout. Sometimes we would go together and he would get it for both of us, but most of the time he would just get food for himself. So whenever I wasn't buying groceries and cooking, he would just be eating without me. I would just be kind of left not eating. So actually, for the last couple of months of that relationship, I was not eating. I was saving money. I was maybe getting Taco Bell once a day or eating at my parents' house. But yeah, that whole event with trying to kick me out set the tone for the rest of the relationship and for the discard phase. So now I'm reading from my notes. The discard phase time frame was for from 4 to 6 months of the relationship, which is the last 2 months of the relationship. Like I said, the beginning of that phase for me was marked with that event of trying to kick me out. The dynamics were pretty much empty threats on breakup over and over. Like he would say, "We're done, I'm breaking up with you," and then we would not break up or he would not follow through with it. It was practically like emotional detachment disguised as control to maybe see if I would chase him. It was so destabilizing. I remember each time I thought that was for real and I would get into panic mode. It was sucking out so much of my energy. So he was testing, I guess, how far he could push me until I could actually leave, because he would actually tell me to leave after that event with trying to kick me out happened, that he would get a roommate, that he would be fine without me, seeing if I was gonna, follow through with it. And he was no longer trying to repair, only assert dominance or detached. It was like, if you want this to work, you gotta make this work. You gotta like be better, be a better partner, do this, do that. it was, I mean, it basically felt like it was all on me now to make the relationship to work. And at the time, I felt his withdrawal and disinterest, and I already knew that I had to leave. It took me a little bit to really, prepare myself mentally for it. I allowed myself to stay until I got angry and, like, I couldn't take it no more. Like, I would genuinely get so pissed off, and it was obviously unsafe for me to really express my anger or frustration to him. So I was just carrying it, but I was waiting until I would get to that point of no return of just like how angry I was and how violated I was. Because at first, I mean, it was a really hard decision. I allowed myself to get angry to the point where I couldn't take it no more, so that my leaving actually felt empowering. Sure, I left that relationship, the stress, like the immediate day-to-day stress dissipated really quick. But the grief, the anger, the confusion, the rumination, and the regret, they all remained. And I want to talk about how I actually ended up being able to heal from this relationship little by little. And I am still healing, but I've done a lot of work in the past 2.5 months, and I've been through probably like the hardest emotional moments already. So let me share with you guys what has helped me. Another side note is that when we met, the way he described meeting me to me after we already got together is he thought I was his ex. He thought I was his most recent ex at the time. Later ended up finding the account of that girl. She's so beautiful, and we do kind of have a similar style and hairstyle mostly. Like, she has the same exact type of bangs. He would bring her up like almost every day, despite of what we were doing. Like, almost every day we would be doing something, he would bring something up from that relationship until I told him to stop, and then he did. But throughout the whole relationship, I felt like he had this mix of lingering attachment mixed with resentment to that person, because he kept bringing it up, but then he would say also like not such good things about her in many aspects. So, the first thing that I think helped me kickstart my healing is that I acknowledged the existence of multiple truths in that relationship, which means that yes, it started sweet and he was really gentle at first and we were really connected. And yes, it also became cruel and disrespectful and unhealthy and unsafe. Those two things coexist. It wasn't just one or the other. Yes, there were moments of connection, but for the majority of the relationship, the second part of it was mostly breadcrumbs. So both of those truths coexist. I feel like what is so hard for people who were in these types of relationships, I guess we'll call them antagonistic relationships, is that they remember the way things began with the intense love bombing and the idealization phase, and they think like, no way it was like that, and now it's like this. And what you gotta understand is both of those things coexist. Yes, it began extremely, like, felt like a fairy tale, felt so ecstatic and euphoric, and yes, this is what it has turned into. Both of those truths coexist, and it's okay. Like, it's not all black and white, it can be many shades of gray. Another thing that really helped me, because once you leave an extremely intense relationship like this, you will get moments of euphoric recall, which is when your mind is sticking to only the good memories, the euphoric moments from most likely the beginning after the relationship ends. And I mean, it's quite normal. It happens even, I guess, in like the most healthiest relationships. You will just recall most likely better moments after the relationship ends rather than the bad moments. But for this, for my personal situation, I created an ick list in my notebook. I never actually finished it, but I wrote down all of the terrible things that happened in my relationship that I would be rereading to kind of get myself on the realistic note of what has been going on and why I made the decision to leave and why it was the right decision for me. The ick list is actually an exercise that I learned from reading this book. It's called It's Not You by Dr. Ramani Durvasula. Durvasula. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but it's an amazing book. I learned a lot about love bombing and a lot about recovering from narcissistic relationships, and the ick list is the exercise from that book. Remember that trauma bonds are neurochemical. Literally, any relationship, any romantic, close, intimate relationship you will leave, you will feel like you are withdrawing because you used to get all this oxytocin and like pleasure hormones from being with that person, and also ultimately adrenaline from the highs and lows from these chaotic relationship. It can very much form an adrenaline addiction. You get addicted to the highs and you can stick through the lows just so that you can get that euphoric feeling of reconnecting once they breadcrumb you again. So you just gotta remember that you will literally feel like you're going through a withdrawal exiting this type of relationship, and that is very normal. it will take probably at least 2 to 4 weeks. The first 2 to 4 weeks of the breakup, I was understanding with my mind that I made the right decision, that I will be so healthy, that I will have a loving relationship in the future, and that I ultimately just need to heal myself because it was so dysregulating for me in such a short amount of time. I felt like I completely lost myself. But my body felt like it was dying from the inside out, and it was the craziest, most disorienting thing ever. If you feel like you're craving more sleep, you should sleep more, because sleep is when your nervous system recovery happens after these types of events. So also, because it is a neurochemical bond that you're going to end up having to break, but once you separate from a relationship like this, it is best that you go no contact with them, because the more you remain in contact with them, even rewatching pictures or rereading your old messages, it instills those neural pathways, and it makes the process of untangling yourself from that person so much harder. So while it may be hard for maybe the first couple weeks of completely isolating yourself from that, hiding the pictures, hiding, archiving the dialogue, not reaching out to them and not talking to them at all whatsoever, if you are able to do so, because not everybody's able to do so. Like, if you have maybe children with them, that's a completely different situation, and if that's something you're going through, I can't imagine how strong you are. Like, it took me so much to be able to do this without children. I can't imagine how I would feel if I had children to take with me and children to take care of in general, while I can't even take care of myself, and I feel like I'm emotionally completely falling apart. Yeah, like, if you're going through this while having children, and maybe you might not have the opportunity to remove yourself completely from the situation, just know that you are so immensely strong and you're already doing amazing. But for those who can remove themselves from the situation and leave, it is best to completely isolate yourself from all of the reminders, which is literally such an important part of your healing. Once I was left with only my own presence to me feels so healing. I feel so calm in my own presence, which, I mean, kind of makes sense that that person was drawn to me in the first place by coming up to me and liking my energy and wanting to talk to me. I feel most regulated when I'm by myself. I'm also introverted, so I recharge when I'm by myself. But as soon as I was taken out of that person's energetic and emotional field, I started recovering so fast. And while I was still ruminating about it, asking a ton of questions, constantly wondering what I could have done, maybe regretting some things, replaying a lot of scenarios, it was still a lot more, like, my thought process was a lot more organized than I feel like it would have been if I still kept that person in my orbit. They also were like wanting to go no contact with me after I left, which I'm so grateful for, because originally I was really struggling for probably the first week or two, and if they didn't go no contact with me, I don't know how I would have behaved. And I don't know, like, that just encouraged me to do the same thing and just strictly focus on myself and completely remove myself from that situation and that relationship entirely after I left. Other than that, I would say what helped me also is rebuilding my own rhythm. So I kind of had a set of hobbies that I've always been into, and aside from my work, which I do content creation on social media, I don't know how I had so much energy to create content. I think I was running off of adrenaline in the first weeks of me leaving, but I was creating a lot of content. Other than that, I was constantly driving because I moved to a new area. Now I'm living an hour away from everywhere that I used to go, my parents, my school, all the places that I like. So I was driving a lot and spending a lot of money on gas and a lot of time just driving back and forth. But the driving was actually so helpful for me, and I looked into it a little bit later. Driving, just as walking, stimulates bilateral, I hope I pronounced that right, eye movement, which is supremely calming to your nervous system, which is why it can be useful having like really important conversations while walking, or thinking of some creative ideas while walking or driving, because it literally activates your parasympathetic nervous system, makes you calmer, makes you more rational, and makes you process trauma. Like, walking and driving, because of the way that it stimulates your eyes, bilateral eye movement, it literally helps you process trauma. The person who I learned about bilateral eye movement from, I actually have read their book, and they have multiple books. They have a book that's called How to Do the Work, which is their first book. I haven't read that one. They have a journal that's called How to Meet Yourself, which is a lot of prompts on getting to know yourself, getting to know what you're like, figuring out your patterns, your behaviors, maybe something that has been out of your conscious awareness, and working on those things. I have that journal. It's so awesome. There's so many cool prompts. I feel like if you're looking to do self work, but you're not maybe looking into spending a lot of money on therapists, or you don't have the money to spend on therapists, that's a book that really got my healing journey started before I even broke up with my ex number one and got with this person. But the book that really helped me also is the book called How to Be the Love You Seek by Dr. Nicole LaPera, which is the person I also learned about bilateral eye movement, healing trauma, and like helping you process trauma from. This book is a must. Like, genuinely, if you don't know what book to read about self help and self love, because there's so many books about that, this book I studied the hell out of this book, y'all. Like, I was obsessed. There's so many practices, so many different concepts that you might find useful, especially if you're recovering from a chaotic relationship like I was in. Another thing that you probably should do if you're in a similar situation and recovering from separating from a relationship like that left you feeling confused, that was chaotic, that was destabilizing, is you need an outlet. By no means you should be keeping all of these thoughts, all of this rumination, all of these maybe guilty statements about yourself or feelings of grief. By no way you should be keeping that inside of your head. You should be either using voice memos and just letting it out. Like, you don't need to do anything with it. You don't even need to listen to it after you record it, but you just need to get it out of your system. So, whenever you have a lot of thoughts in your head, I would highly suggest that you either journal. I have been journaling a ton. I literally almost filled out this whole ass journal within 2 months of the breakup. My journaling practice lately, though, has been the morning pages from the Artist Way course that I have been doing. So, it's a little different, but pretty much whatever comes up to me on a certain day, the next morning, I will journal and work through. But before I started doing that, I was either talking to ChatGPT and just, getting shit out of my system uh by voice dictation. So I wasn't typing. I was just not even looking at the screen. I was just doing like a voice memo but in the chat, or literally recording videos of how I felt. And it's actually really useful because then once you're a little more recovered from a situation, you'll look at those videos and you'll have so much material to work through and work with and see how you were, what you've gone through, what your thought patterns were, what you were dealing with, what kind of feelings you were working through. And it just makes the journey of becoming self aware and working with your emotions and self regulating so much more efficient. And I mean, it probably will help you also increase your emotional intelligence, because sometimes you'll be having certain thoughts and feelings, but before you start talking about it, getting it out somewhere, they will be just like a snowball in your head, and they will be keeping you confused and making you feel heavy. But literally all it takes is to just get it out. It doesn't have to be constantly venting to friends or family members, by no means. It's honestly like, it's so important to rebuild a community and have somebody who's on your side supporting you, knowing you, after a relationship like this. But ultimately, a lot of the work has to be done by yourself. Not to make it sound lonely or scary, because it's not, because in the process of the work, you will literally realize that you are always there for yourself, that ultimately you get yourself, you get your story, you understand what you've been through, and you don't need anybody else's validation to tell you, yeah, that experience was valid. I can't imagine you went through that, or like, I'm so glad you did this or that. Like, no, you literally become your own best friend in the process of such type of inner work, and that is the best thing that you can do after coming, like, at any point really, but after coming out of the relationship like this, the best thing that you can do, and the best, like, revenge, whatever you want to call it, is gaining trust with yourself, becoming your own best friend, and just genuinely savoring your peace of mind that you have gained by doing these practices, and getting close to yourself and figuring out your patterns and figuring out what you didn't like about that relationship, what you did like about that relationship. Because, like I said, it's not always black and white. And the first part was accepting that multiple truths can coexist, which is important. It is not all black and white. There were great moments, there was connection, there were things that you did wrong, there were things that you might have done better, there were things that the other person did that you liked, and there were things that the other person did that you wish they never did because they were unhealthy and just terrible. And all of that coexists and adds up to a bigger picture that you are unraveling and working through. Kind of getting a little dark now. It's almost 5 p.m. and I've been recording this video for probably a few hours at this point. I just want to tell you guys that this is my first YouTube video. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know for sure that I want my YouTube to be more personal, to be more about my life experience and my lessons, because My TikTok is still a lot of it is about Slavic culture, and I kind of feel stuck in this pattern because I started talking about Russian culture and my Slavic upbringing, and I feel like a lot of people that follow me, they follow me particularly for that type of content, and it's almost like I put myself in this box and I feel like I can't get out of it, even though I'm the one who put myself in that box. I've been opening up about my life and my insights and things I'm going through and things I'm interested in outside of that, but it's going really slow, and I'm just not trying to make this transition from doing one thing to doing a completely different thing that I've never done, that people have never heard me talk about on my TikTok. But my YouTube, I want it to be a space for honest reflections like this, for working through my own experience, because I do journal a lot, I do think a lot, I do like try to always analyze absolutely everything. I'm just kind of stuck on that. And I assume a lot of people that watch my content that know a little bit about my divorce story through my TikTok, they have also experienced similar things in relationships and similar dynamics. So I hope that at least one or two people who are watching this might be in the similar relationship right now, trying to leave or just recovering from a breakup. And I hope that maybe something I said might have made your journey a little bit easier and might have been a message that you have been looking for that will help you recover. And like, I genuinely pray for your recovery, for you to gain peace and trust within yourself. It doesn't always feel like it's going to get better, but it ultimately does get better, and at some point you will look at a period of your life that has felt so messy and so chaotic and just be truly grateful for it. That is a phrase that I heard once I got out of that relationship almost immediately after, and I didn't believe it until I started feeling like that recently. And I'm happy I actually waited multiple months to record this video because I have so much more insight now. And yeah, please give me constructive feedback about this video. Maybe I should make a part 2 talking more about this, because I do have more to say about the topic of like this relationship and what I've learned and what I've gone through and how I'm recovering from the breakup. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all, and I hope that you guys can show love to this channel. I will be working on posting more videos on here. Thank you. Bye.